It's so good to connect. I know I'm finding you in China right now, but I was curious, where did you grow up? I think I have a hunch, but I wanted to ask you first.
Yeah, I'm originally from Stuttgart, Germany. So I grew up in Stuttgart in the southern German area, and yeah, in a quite I think a quite German environment or in a quite German neighborhood. In with a lot of my friends working in the car industry, like at Mercedes-Benz, at Porsche. Still, a lot of them are, and I visit them frequently. But right after we're studying and being there in this environment, I also figured I need to explore more the international environments. And um, I joined initially a larger German company that sent me to Hong Kong to be stationed there. But I also figured out, after some time that this is not really like what I really can get fulfillment or really like have a big impact in what I'm doing. While being in Hong Kong, I found the opportunity to be being contacted by DJI, the drone maker who's based in Shenzhen, and they offered me a position to expand their business into the European markets. So I was then frequently traveling between Shenzhen, China, and Frankfurt to help them build up their European headquarters and offices. Decided then again to go back to Shenzhen, and in 2015, 2016, I heard about a young company, a young startup that was making waves with JK as the founder. And I decided to learn more about it, got to know the co-founding team, and then decided to take the role there as basically being in charge of also expanding into the overseas markets worldwide and helping the company to grow their brand presence, their products in overseas markets. And since then, you saw from our last 10-year anniversary, there's been a lot of progress, a lot of expansion, both internationally, but also product-wise. We have added a lot of new exciting products over the years. And it's been a remarkable journey.
Wow, interesting. So I appreciate you sharing that because I was curious how you guys met. What did you study in university, and were you in Germany when you were in school?
Correct. Yes, I was studying mostly like at the beginning engineering, and then I switched topics to more business. So it was a mix of business and engineering. Um, Initially a very traditional German path, I would say. Yeah, I then I also figured out that overall marketing is something that I'm really interested. Very early on, I was actually also in high school or in university already doing like our own event series, own event marketing. So I was always like in between, like what should I do? Should I focus more on the creative and the marketing aspect, or should I pursue a more traditional engineering career? But in the end, I decided for more the international creative marketing impact that I think was also following my interest for international markets and also for foreign cultures, for creativity, and that's ultimately what pursued me and got me here.
Okay, I want to talk more about this later. But I want to ask you, how many countries have you been to?
Oh
Roughly?
my
Do you
God.
think?
Yeah. That's hard because Insta360 products are now sold in more than like 200 countries. So part of my job is definitely traveling a lot. I would say it's hard to count, but I would say it's definitely in the 40s or 50s. Like from a very early stage on, we've been um expanding like overseas uh, all at once. A lot of companies do that step-by-step approach where they focus on one major market. Our approach was different. We really went all in from day one, both with distribution partners, but also building up a strong team of people here doing direct marketing, direct localization. So for a lot of major markets, but also minor markets, we actually do the marketing in-house, and we kind of have that philosophy of having an in-house creative agency, I think, which is also quite unique. I think I would say in the tech or
Big
in the
advantage,
startup
huge.
scene.
Yeah,
Right, right, right.
awesome. Okay, so just back to your origin story a little bit. What did your parents do for a living? And I'm just curious how maybe that influenced you.
My parents, actually, my father is a photographer. So he has a photography advertising business. So you can also see a little bit the background with cameras and photography was always like um, familiar for me. Actually, he had an advertising. He was also an entrepreneur, starting his own advertising business, mostly focused on commercial work, advertising work for machinery companies. So it definitely taught me a bit about cameras and photography and about the creative aspects of it.
So you were
My
surrounded by
mother,
cameras growing up, it sounds like.
I think so. I think so.
Yeah,
Yes, I think it was
interesting.
in this, like seeing Leicas and seeing Panasonic and Canon cameras definitely leaves a mark on you.
Fantastic. Yeah, my sister is a big Leica camera person. She takes like street photography. Like, she's serious. Like, won't buy another camera. Buys just black and white cameras and color cameras. So yeah, totally see that. And sorry, I was
That's
interrupting you.
awesome.
Your mom. You
Yeah,
mentioned your mom. Yeah,
yeah. She was mostly like taking care at home, but also like being a physiotherapist. So a bit different.
fantastic. Do you have kids yet or not yet?
I don't have a kid. I don't have kids yet. No,
Okay.
I'm too busy working. I'm too busy being traveling around the world. But it's
Yeah.
something that may come up soon. Yeah.
You have plenty of time. Plenty of time. Is there something when you just think about lessons from your parents growing up? Is there a lesson that comes to mind maybe in the future that you'd want to instill in your future kids?
For I think what's great is that I think what you really have to think about is like what I learned is it's not just about I think when you find your passion or when you find like something you want to pursue, it's not just like about money. I think money is definitely a part of it, but also like what you truly love or and in addition, also what kind of has an impact on society. I think these three things is kind of like a better motivation than just like financially. I think in order to uh, really do an exceptional job at something, you have to do it more than just monetary value. Like there needs to be an intrinsic motivation behind it. And for me, I also found this with our users. Like with Insta360, what inspires me every day is when I like just now get into the office, looking at our Facebook groups, looking at our Instagram, and see how people tag us, see what they do with our cameras. That ultimately drives inspiration. I think it's also what I learned from my family or from my dad when he pursued a career in photography. It was very similar. It's also about the art. It's not just about the science.
Yeah, I love that. That's great advice early on.
Mm.
There's a lot of bad career advice. It's I think
Yes.
we've got to highlight the good career advice too. Okay. Um, so JK, I read that like he maybe so you guys like co-founded this together. He started it in his dorm. Um, like I'm curious, what was I mean, GoPro is I think maybe they had about a decade head start. And
Mm.
so what was the inflection point of like I know you'd been in the business sort of, right, with that other company.
Mm.
So
Yes.
you had some experience, but like what was the inflection point to say, maybe it's this camera that's okay, but was it like we can do
Mm.
it better, or like how did that come about?
Mm. A good point. Yeah. Maybe to give you a little bit background also about JK's journey. JK initially he founded Insta 60 in the Nanjing University when he was still a university student. He actually was some sort of, I would say, like campus legend. He was kind of nerdy, doing a lot of stunts within the university. So there was a famous stunt where he like decoded another Keyhole 360. It's like a another Chinese startup phone number by analyzing the keypad tones. So he did a lot of these stunts, and that kind of got him attention within the local scene and with the entrepreneurial scene. Um, and also gave him several like big company offers, but ultimately he turned them down, and he took a 15,000 or that's like $2,000 loan from his father to start his business. So in the end, he pursued a career that's also like following his own passion. And his first startup actually related to Insta360 um, was a campus live streaming platform. I think if you translate into English, something like top schools live streaming. So what he did is like went into classrooms and tried to bring the classroom experience in a more immersive way with multicam live streaming. to students at home. And he expanded it quickly into like hundred of events, expanded into corporate streaming. And that also made him think about how I can pursue this in a more immersive way. And then he kind of pivoted also by the inspiration of users worldwide publishing immersive videos and 360 videos that VR or panoramic cameras is something that can help him to capture and share memories in an even more immersive way with more immersive storytelling. And
Wow.
then in 2014, he finally decided that he wanted to found a hardware company because initially a lot of JK's work and background is actually software engineering, which I think is also quite I think is unique for a camera company. You know, if you think about brands like Leica, Canon, and so on, the hardware is a very strong part of it. But from us very early on in the DNA, it's really like software that was a major differentiator, how we thought about the concept of capturing and sharing your life. It's also about the sharing part. So yes, so basically in 2014, he then figured, but in order to capture, he also needs to build a hardware startup, and it's where he moved to Shenzhen, one of I would say the world's most comprehensive and fast-moving hardware ecosystem you can find. Bringing prototypes to life here really sometimes only takes a couple of days. Um, but he also then quickly, yes, moved to Shenzhen, had the founding team here, and that's where also like I heard about the company then in 2015, 2016, with very early prototypes. They had a camera called Insta360 4K Beta, which actually had beta in the name, which is also quite interesting. And then
What did
I
you
learned
think?
about
Like
it.
with the
It was
first one? Yeah. What did you think about it? Like, did you think it was, like
yeah,
at that
yeah,
point, did you ever use a GoPro? Like,
yeah,
did you already have a sense of
yeah. Yeah.
competitors?
Yeah, I definitely had a sense. I was also like using, to be honest, I was also using GoPro. I think it was GoPro Hero 3, so or second editions for skiing. And I knew the background at this time. GoPro was really booming, but I think what GoPro here at this point was not really like the main, I would say, um, market we were pursuing. It was more like uh, actually 360 and live streaming of 360-degree cameras. And what made me excited, to be honest, when I first saw the 4K beta, I was not so it was a little bit gimmicky, it was a little bit techy, it was not perfect yet. But what I liked about him and the approach of the company, that it looked to me overall quite an ambitious and innovative way of looking at the camera industry with 360-degree cameras and the whole live streaming. And also what I liked about his company, that they were pretty open-minded and very a good feel for the user and for the look and feel of the brand. So it really inspired me to learn more about it. I got to know the founding team, and ultimately then also decided to make the switch from DJI, which were focused more on a drone business, camera drone business, to Insta360. And I think that ultimately it's also like in 360s, I think like the unique innovation that came from them, and also the speed of innovation that ultimately inspired me and helped me to make the switch.
Okay, interesting. How long, if you recall, how long did it take from like to go to from prototype to market with a product that someone can actually buy?
Right. Yeah, it's a good point. You know, obviously for a complete camera, it takes longer, but usually we iterate very quickly. Um, Also in the early days, like our philosophy was more like going to the market as fast as possible within 6 months, within 6 to 8 months, and also
Wow.
acknowledging that there's like sometimes also imperfections, or focusing on more basic features first and then optimizing them later on with software updates. I think that was a quite iterative approach we took in the very early days, but it was quite important to just bring products to life and bring products on the market, also to get the user feedback. At this time, we had a quite small user base, but it really, that speed of GTM and that speed of iteration, also like adjusting features, bringing in new features, helps a lot to test and most importantly to make progress. Um, Even though there's sometimes some imperfection in it. It's also a very completely different approach, I would say, to legacy German or Japanese camera brands. If you think about it, like a brand like Leica, they're very, I would say, more slower moving, more on this side. So that's what I like, like moving fast, breaking things, and then also at the same time continuously strive to become better. And now over the years, also our philosophy is definitely not only moving fast, it's also like bringing the best quality experience to users, because that's what we learned along the way. You definitely need to you have a lot to risk if your brand is bigger, if your brand is renowned. You need to make sure there's perfection in it, but at the same time we want to keep the speed that we had in the early days and keep innovating.
I love that. It sounds like you're really keeping the reputation in mind, right?
Mm, for sure.
It's like you see some companies and it's like death by a thousand paper cuts. It's not one move that they made, but it's this sort of continuous, not thinking about the user or the experience that degrades the reputation over time. So
Sure.
like when you guys make this first product, I mean, do you run out of money? It doesn't sound like you got enough money to do it, or how do you? Is it like just bootstrap? How do you? Because it sounds like an expensive. When you're building software, maybe you have less overhead, but when you're building a product like that with hardware, it sounds like an expensive thing to do.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Like in the early days, it was I think we got investment on a smaller scale, to be honest. I think but we had some key investments coming from mostly from early investments coming from IDG Capital. That's like a Chinese-based VC that
Okay.
helped us to get the first $1 million angel round. Then what we really liked about their approach is that they were investing in people rather than valuation. They really saw like talent in JK and his entrepreneurial skill set. So they were like we were also very early on looking on long-term growth, long-term impact. And I think that here we were aligned with the early investors, because there was definitely like also ups and downs within that journey. And it's important to have like a longer term vision along the way, that you also get support from the funding. And I think one of the breakthrough early product success that helped us to gain more momentum was then the Insta360 Nano in 2016, which was the first, I would say, consumer grade um, attachable smartphone camera. Again, making it more seamless for people to capture and share 360-degree images. When we first went to CES, gained a lot of attention. We even saw the Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak calling it an amazing product. We got a selfie with him, so that created a lot of motivation within the company, a lot of hype also within the scene, and ultimately it also kind of symbolized then this first breakthrough product. And then later on, also with me joining, I helped the company then expand that, also with our professional series with the VR cameras. Then we went into the Insta360 One series, which was our first standalone consumer 360, more pivoting then in 2017 towards being an action camera. But we can also talk about it
Yeah.
separately.
Isn't it funny? Like, I was just thinking about this today. Like sometimes it's not about like sometimes what to do, but it matters like who says it to you. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like
right,
Steve
right.
Wozniak said
You
that to
need,
you.
you
Like,
need, yes.
you
You
know
you
what I
need
mean?
like you need the confirmation.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Sometimes you need affirmation. Yes.
that's
Uh,
pretty amazing. So congratulations on that. I remember I was visiting my sister. It was maybe it was 2020 2021, 2022, and she actually
mm.
had one of your cameras that like hooks up as like a necklace. And we were going
I
like,
got you.
yeah, we're going like apple picking and in Pennsylvania or near Philadelphia. And so that was the first
Mm,
time I'd ever seen. I didn't know what it was. Like, this is pretty cool. Like, how does this even work? Because I think that's hard for
Mm,
people. Obviously, a lot of creators use it, but like, you just want to capture
mm,
family moments too. So it's nice to
mm.
see sort of the options of the types of cameras.
Yeah, and you mentioned a good word, like you saw it from a lot of creators using it, but what I think also our cameras and that's also a bit different, I would say, to like let's say traditional GoPro. It's like our cameras are made for a wider range of consumers. Like I always feel like this approach ultimately also enables us to grow into an even bigger market. Like you talked about family. Actually, in fact, one of our uh, videos on social just break through where we had a kid mounting the camera on the cat, and it totally went viral. We had like it was part of the top 20 most like posts in Instagram history, I think. We
Wow.
had like a lot of likes.
So
So it
you can just
shows you
mount it
that
on a
that
hat,
there's
like if I'm
yeah, it
like
was
just like a regular
yes,
hat. Interesting.
yes, that's correct. And it's like it shows you like this camera is not just made for action sports or for sports or outdoor experience, which we definitely want to serve this market, but at the same time, family, casual leisure creators, traveling. These are all great use cases where you also need to be in the moment. You need to have a way to not be disturbed by like point and shoot cameras. Here it's more about
Yes.
being in the moment and having a camera with you that just captures it, and then later on when you back home, you have the time to check out what's happened, or let AI share the best moments for you.
And that's one thing I love about what you said is like, if I have a camera and I'm pointing it at, or I even grab my iPhone and I point it at my kids, it's very inorganic, right? They might
Mm,
pose, they might not, they might run away, they're just being kids. And I think the more, as a parent of two kids, like the more I can have that organic moment of capturing something where they're not thinking, even though it's there and they can see it, they're not thinking about it.
right.
And those are the memories I feel like I grew up in a family where my dad, had like VHS. He was always recording, right? Like every
Mm,
camcorder, like throughout the years, we would have video, like family videos. And as a parent,
cool.
it's like your job to do that, right? Like
Mm,
as you
mm,
got to figure out how to do it and how to save it and all those things. And so
mm,
I love the fact that even that sort of clip-on one that I was using years ago, I thought that was like, I didn't really care if it was like I didn't know what the quality was. I'm like, this is like really cool because I'm not like
yeah,
holding it. So I love that concept. Hopefully you guys continue to upgrade that camera. Right? It's pretty cool.
for sure. There's
Yeah.
something exciting coming soon, by the way. We will keep you updated.
Okay, awesome. Did you ever feel like at this point, so I guess two questions I had for you. When did you know that like maybe it's a sales perspective or something, but like when did you know that like, hey, okay, you've got maybe some good confirmation, but like this is a proven concept, like this thing is taking
Mm,
off. Like when did you know that?
mm, mm. I think it was around the time with the to be I mean I can give you my
Yeah.
personal hero moment. I think my personal hero moment, shortly after I joined like JK and came to me and said, "Oh Max, now we need to launch our new professional camera at CES." And it was like, I was like 3 weeks within the company. I had very little experience on the whole VR or a little 360. So it was a tough challenge to launch the products within 3 weeks, getting media attention, getting influencers, creators invited for a big press conference. But ultimately, like the feedback within that 3 weeks of pitching and letting people know about the camera was so overwhelming. And in the end, we had like a room of hundreds of people within that CES conference room where I was totally surprised how this has happened because at this time nobody knew actually what is the Insta360 is, but our products, I think, and really drove a lot of excitement because it was something refreshing new and how we approached videography, camera technology. Um, and at this time, I really figured, this big company is striving for something bigger because like just having launched a consumer grade camera 6 months later, we going into the professional space. the professional cinematic and broadcasting market, which is like a completely different market environment and dynamics, and requires you really to have strong R&D and hardware capabilities to match the professionals' expectations. And this is I think was a remarkable moment for me, both personally, but I think also for the company to being able to pull this off, and the market feedback has been really good, and ultimately helping us also to grow into professional VR space. At the same time, like what I also found a big milestone in terms of consumer cameras was the Insta360 One, and that we initially also firstly launched more as a live streaming 360-degree camera. So the initial product positioning was also more about 360 live, similar to the initial Nano concept. But what also opened my eyes that this company is really like um, adaptive and different compared to other companies, was the fact that through user observation, through community observation, we were able to see what people are doing with this camera. And it was not so much about live streaming anymore. People use it to mount it on their helmet. People use it on a selfie stick that got invisible. And it was then more outdoor aspirational use cases like skiing, mountain biking, motorcycling, where this camera was used. So we quickly saw that through our community, and then decided to also adjust the product with software updates. Like back then we introduced the Insta360 Flow State, which is a proprietary stabilization algorithm that can help you to get very, very smooth, shake-free footage, which is essential for action sports, right? So this helped us to enter a completely new market. And then also, like, previously actually we had also like a situation where there's like, after the initial success, a lot of larger companies jumped in. Like there was even like at one point Samsung doing their own 360-degree camera. But what I think they all did very different is like the user observation, the community observation. And we figured out that by repositioning the product or by adding new software features, we can enter markets that may have even more potential or a stronger product market fit. And that pivot really showed me this company is very adaptive, very able to be very user centric, and to listen to the community, and then be willing to put in the necessary resources to add features that help the user capture and share their lives better. So that was also very remarkable for me, and really helped me to see that we're a very resilient company as well, and
Yeah.
we're very user centric.
Do you feel like the community knows that you're listening? Obviously, you're monitoring things across the internet and social, but do you sort of give them that affirmation, like, "Hey, like we see you guys, like we see all the use cases and how you're trying to use it, and we're gonna make some adjustments for you."
Definitely, yeah. And it was even like you already when we had like 200, 300 people or 500 people, and even now I think JK is still, and me or others are still like checking what's happening on our communities. And it's funny because we also in the US, we very early on had a big Facebook group. In the beginning it was just a Facebook group where we exchanged with where our engineers, where our product managers are, and then where also like these community users are. And one of them, a guy from Chicago, was exceptionally engaged within the community, called Terry Martin. And he actually then later on also now became a full-time employee as a product marketing specialist, supporting us now. So it was also like interesting, like how we found these like future talents within the company, and being part of the team. So it was really like, I think, an approach that's really down with the user, listening to the user, and really be willing to accept their feedback.
Love that. Okay. If someone has an X5, do you feel like, knowing what you know now, um, do they need another camera? Like, do they need a Leica? Do they need another camcorder? Like, where do you feel like is the sort of fit? Maybe someone has kids, but like, where does it sort of fit it in the arsenal of cameras and video cameras?
Yeah. For me, the X series or 360 cameras are like, for me, they're essentially like time capturing machines because with 360, obviously you capture the whole world around you, and you don't miss a moment. So this implies or gives you the freedom to really live in the moment and to capture moments as they are, not staged, not really real. So in some way, I think 360-degree cameras are ultimately memory capturing machine.
Hmm. I like
And for
that.
me, this is yeah, I think for me that's really what it is. Um, but we also know that 360 cameras also have, like, from a consumer standpoint, from a consumer user standpoint, also have used to have certain bottlenecks. Like, one of them is, there's a benefit that you can shoot first and frame later, which is like completely reversing the traditional camera
That's
concept.
yeah. I was
But that,
watching someone
yeah,
on YouTube edit. It was like a tutorial, and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." Like you can just
yes,
yeah, and it's almost like I don't want to say dummy proof, but it's simplified
mm,
to where like almost anybody can do it. Like I don't need to take a class necessarily.
for sure. But at the same time, like, there's also, like, for some people, it's just an extra workflow step, or it could be a friction point within their user experience, because you definitely need to add some time, um, reframing that image. With traditional cameras or with your smartphone, you can just press the record button, you get a final MP4 or video file out of it. With 360, you have that extra step of reframing. So that, like, within that, you can also see sometimes there's like limitation in terms of technology and how to make it more seamless for a wider range of consumer.
Yes,
But
absolutely.
what we figured here also, again, the background of being a software first camera company, is that we paid a lot of attention to our mobile app. Like you mentioned, it's super easy now to reframe. We have like endless options at reframing. And what we ultimately also see in the future is that AI or machine learning can help you to get that best moment by continuously learning what the user or what you would prefer, or what are the best worthwhile moments to share with your friends. So we see limitations also in 360-degree camera companies, but we think with the X5 we made some pretty good progress to solve these. Whether it's like also like with the fisheye lenses, that they can be more fragile for action use cases. We introduced exchangeable lenses, whether it's on the mobile side, helping people to make that more seamless with AI powered software. Or also in terms of image quality, right? Image quality was always a major bottleneck, which we solved now with, again, better chipset, better image processing powers, and I think we're getting there to really make that camera, not only a great tool for creators to capture and share their memories, but also for the everyday user, and that enables us really to also reach a bigger total addressable market. And I think in the end, um, there's really like it's inspiring, like just to see every day new use cases coming up, how people use that, whether they use it on their pets, with the dog. We saw people like mounting it on the dog, or putting it into the dog's mouth for dog POV. Others use it
That's
more for
funny.
travel experiences. There's also very fun moments, and we celebrate all of these. It's not only those highly cinematic moments, it's also these true authentic moments that we really appreciate, because in an essence, a 360 or an Insta360 camera can help you that capture it really authentic and real moments. I think that's a big promise, of our products overall.
If someone wants to become more of an expert, what do you tell them? Like I saw someone named Jordan Hetrick build a guide.
Mm.
Is that the way
Mm.
to go? Like how where would you point someone?
Yeah, if I guess if you want to be a like like really thrill in 360 or Insta360 cameras, I think you not necessarily need a lot of, from my perspective, like for daily life sharing, you don't necessarily need a lot of um, support on this part, because the mobile app actually has a lot of support for you, like what do you want to how you get the best shot. We have inspirational features. There's also like features. There's like a shot lab section, which where you basically have a tutorial style
Oh,
approach to like how to get viral shots. So that that's like inspired actually by creators where we see, oh, they create like a stop motion time lapse, and then we give a guide to users to easily copy that, or not copy that, but reinvent in their own way. And this is then powered by AI, where you basically pre-record some footage and AI will do the editing for you. We also so, but then again, if you want to go into more higher end cinematic editing and reframing, I really suggest maybe to check out people like Brandon Lee that we have on our YouTube channel, and get more inspiration. So obviously there's like the different ranges of content creation, advanced editing options. But in the end, I think this camera also can, with like quite easy or simple shots can give you a lot of unique moments, unique type of footage. I always like the story of one of our creators, Karen X Cheng. She's like when we first met her, also together with JK, we actually got really inspired by her because she was what she was doing with our cameras was mind blowing. She invented, like, she really was able to convey the benefits of this camera. We worked on a campaign with her very early on, which was called No Drone, No Problem, where you basically imitate these drone shots that you can see a lot now on socials these days, where you use that invisible selfie stick to get an aerial perspective. And she played around with this concept and completely went viral. I think she went from like 5 or 10K followers to like millions of followers. I wouldn't say it's only because of our camera. Obviously, Karen is super talented and she's an amazing creator to aspire to. But at the same time, I think she really leveraged what Insta360 cameras are able to create and the unique type of content they create and the type of engaging content they create. And later on, we also work with her to actually advise us more into how to communicate the benefits of our cameras and products better. Because in the early stage, with new technology, it's always hard to communicate what are the real user benefits, what are the real advantages of this type of camera, because it's something new, right? You need some guidance along the way. And nowadays, I think I would say when 360 cameras are more unknown, or where the concept is better known, we also definitely see that there's both entry level users, but also more advanced users who want more advanced editing advice, and we have tutorials and support for both of them, whether it's on a mobile app or on official YouTube channels, or just searching on YouTube, you will definitely find support.
okay, that's awesome. Um, I'll have to check that out in the mobile app. That sounds really fascinating. I didn't know that was there. You mentioned you guys, it's about, I think you had this quote. I love this quote. You said, the journey taught us one thing: you don't need permission to build globally. You need obsession, speed, and a
Mm,
mindset to never settle. And I
mm,
imagine you guys are doing this thoughtfully, but you're, bumping into walls along the way, right? Because it's about getting there,
mm,
learning from the mistakes, the setbacks, however you want
mm,
to phrase them,
mm, mm,
and moving
mm,
on.
mm,
What were maybe a
mm,
couple, one or two of the, if you want to call it a failure, that's fine. But like one of those situations where like you were going fast, maybe you hit a
mm,
wall, you learn something,
mm,
and then you move forward.
mm,
What's one or
mm,
two that comes to mind, maybe where like, there's like a valuable lesson worth sharing?
mm. Yeah, I think,
It's
I
like, I know
think
you're
from,
probably thinking the
yeah,
list is really
there's a
long.
lot.
Let me, but like, what's one or two where
Yeah.
you're like, hey, these are really great lessons, like anybody can learn about, career wise, job wise. What comes to mind?
Yeah. I think, maybe an interesting story was like, uh, with the Nano, with the first product, in 2017, we actually also faced at some point also like a lot of competition, because in 2017 we were in a market that had large players like Samsung. It had a Japanese camera company, Ricoh, being in the 360 space. So we were facing quite intense competition also from large companies. Samsung obviously having a lot of funding, and we also saw that space getting more crowded, and at the same time, um, we figured it's important to reimagine, what to do with our technology. Like if we just stay in that competitive space, probably we would run out of funding, or we would run out of cash, or we would be like we would just wouldn't be able to compete. So I think by continuously user observation, I talked about this earlier in the community approach, I think we were able to really have that repositioning within the company, or that mind shift within the company, that we always need to constantly be on the lookout for new opportunities, and new ways how to drive innovation. In 2017, we also faced a lot of operational pressure. The cash was pretty tight back then. We didn't really have new hero products, where our one camera was still in the development. We had more than 100 people, staff on payroll. And I think this 2017 was also, I think, for JK, one of the toughest years. And that where we had a lot of competition, where we had a lot of pressure to deliver, and things didn't go as expected. But I think by escaping, like competitive, crowded market, and reinventing and going into a market that showed us um, a stronger product market fit, stronger, less competition, and more clearer positioning of our products with the market that resonates more easily towards your product, really helped us to then get back on the track, and scale things up further. When in 2018 we had the Insta360 1X, which then later on really became a flagship product, and became the number one 360 camera. Ultimately, then also surpassing all the competitors like Samsung and Ricoh. Samsung, I think, then gave up also their 360 camera venture. Ultimately, passing then also, or getting when we got close to GoPro in as the number two in 2018, just behind GoPro. With an annual revenue of more than $30 million, and then growing step from there, um, to venture into new types of products. But by 2017, I think I would definitely the toughest year, and it was I think ultimately JK's resilience to um to be user centric, to keep innovating, and also to iterate fast and be willing to adapt fast. And our background being here in a great ecosystem for hardware, and having the background as a software engineer helped us to stay agile and move very quickly.
That's great. And it sounds like you guys had the self-awareness. I used to work at
Mm,
BlackBerry, and it was like, yeah, the opposite of self-awareness,
mm,
right? Um,
mm.
and
Yes, you need to be self-aware. That's a very good point. I think you need to
yeah,
be self-aware, and you need to understand your bottlenecks. You need to be honest with yourself, and most importantly, you gotta be resilient. I think you gotta be resilient in order to stay focused on your vision, but also move quickly to adapt, and just iterate very
yes,
quickly. I think that was ultimately the challenge.
it may be the opposite is true. If you had, you hear these stories about resourcefulness, right? And I love the quote, it's not about resources, it's about resourcefulness. Um, if you guys had all of the budgets, maybe greater than or equal to the Samsungs of the world, maybe you wouldn't have made the pivot and change your
Right,
direction, right? And so I think there's
right.
sort of the blessing and the curse in those situations. But I appreciate you sharing that. It sounds JK sounds like a good leader. It sounds like you would
Mm,
agree. If there's something we can learn about him and the experience that you've had working with
mm,
him, what do you think is the trait of his that
mm,
really stands out?
mm. Yeah. What I really admire about him is that he's a very mm, he's both a very exceptional engineer, but also he's a very creative person, actually. He has a great sense for the creativity, for the art of photography, because I truly believe that for a camera company or smart imaging company that we are, it's important to understand both the art and the science. I think his engineering background is definitely what where we got our technical leadership from, where we got our innovation spirit from, where we really pushed boundaries. At the same time, though, it's important to combine it with the user-centric approach, with understanding like what cameras are built for. When we talked a lot about memory, like a memory capturing machine, I think that this is what he understands really well by deep user observation, but also having the sensitivity to understand what cameras are made for, or what is the basic human need of having a camera in their life. Um, and our company mission, in fact, is to help people better capture and share their lives. And I think he understood this very clearly. And then again, what I also really admire about JK, he's a very, again, resilient person. He's not giving up, and he's moving fast to to break things. I think this was one of his mottos in the early days. Move fast and break things. And I really resonate with this as well, because you need to have you need to stay agile. You need to stay on top of things. Like even now when we are a larger company where we have like 5 product lines, where we into webcams, into conferencing cameras, um, where we do all sorts of products, we still keep pushing. We still keep pushing the boundaries. We
You
not
don't lose that chip on your shoulder, it
relax.
sounds like. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's what I find very inspiring, because like now after our IPO, obviously our company has more funding, more resources, but we don't wanna stagnate. We keep pushing the boundaries, and I think that's what I admire and really look up to.
That's fantastic. When you think of the last 10 years, I'm sure it's felt like 20, right?
Mm.
With all the milestones and the travel and everything like that. Are there, maybe now that you've had a little time to reflect on this, are there just a couple lessons personally or professionally through this decade journey that sort of comes to mind when you think about those last 10 years?
Mm. Yeah, I think that the lesson for me is really like probably at some points when it's the where you the closest to giving up. I think that's usually time where you need that extra energy and extra motivation to keep going the extra mile. And if you do that, you'd actually become successful. I think this is really what taught me in the years of where we also struggled, but also had maybe when you have personal situations in your life that really sets you back. Usually those are the times when you get through them, and where you stay resilient and keep focusing on your vision mission. That's also the time, if you get through them, you will have great success. And I think this is ultimately what helped me to at Insta360, or what was eye-opening for me during my time at Insta360, that you have to stay resilient. You have to sometimes accept things don't go the way, and you need to adapt to a new situation. I think that helped me a lot, especially in the in the years between 2019 and 2023. Yeah, like during COVID, obviously it was also really tough. We faced a situation where suddenly our revenue went down a lot. Obviously, for an action camera or for an outdoor sports camera brand, this is quite impactful when people cannot capture and share, or go out to capture and share these moments anymore. So we really faced some tough challenges during that time, but we also then later on saw that the market recovered quickly, and actually during these times, like in 2021 to 2022, was also when we really accelerated then, after having that quick downfall, and um, and grow even faster. So sometimes you gotta stay resilient, gotta stay on your path, um, and uh, and um, and be resilient.
What would you say is your proudest career accomplishment within the company so far?
Mm.
There's so much, right? We can point to, but if you had to point to something, like maybe it was a product launch, maybe it was, you mentioned CES and pulling that off in like 3 weeks when you
Mm.
first started. But when you think of like
Mm,
proudest career accomplishment at
mm.
Insta360, is there something that comes to mind?
Right. I think it actually, for me, again, coming from maybe goes back to like initially from Germany, from Stuttgart, my dad, a photographer, having a Leica camera. I think what was remarkable or great moment for me when I actually initiated, when I met the Leica team in 2019, I think at our CES booth, just had a random conversation with them. Hey, what about we partner up Insta360 and Leica? It was quite interesting, exciting idea for me, like bringing that German refined engineering with Insta360's software capabilities, with Insta360's approach to innovation, to speed, and bringing these two worlds together. And that's where I had more discussions also with JK, with Leica's team, and where we ultimately formed a partnership with Leica to co-engineer and co-develop one of our action cameras, the Insta360 which was one of the first modular cameras where you can switch between 360-degree and traditional wide-angle lenses. And the 1-inch edition of that wide-angle lens was then co-engineered with Leica, bringing in their imaging experience, image quality, optimization, and
What did your
I think
dad
this was a
say? Did he
quite
think you were
yeah.
joking, or did he know you were serious?
I think at first he didn't even realize, but later on he was quite surprised. I think it was a great moment. Yeah, it was a great moment because personally for me it also connected the dots a little bit, and I really got proud about this.
Was he a Leica guy? Like, did he have those cameras growing up?
Definitely, yes, yes,
Okay,
yes. Yeah, he had that. Yeah, and he
because
still has one.
he does. Okay, because my sister tells me like it's a community. It's you talk about people who are part of like a community and like they do,
Mm,
they go take pictures together and they get together on weekends. I mean, that's like raving fans, right? Like people who have those cameras
for
definitely
sure.
are obsessed with them.
It was super inspiring. I just recently we went to Leica's 100 years anniversary where they invited us as well. It was super, super, super aspirational, and to see like this a camera company being 100 years old. We just had our 10 years anniversary. There's definitely a lot to look up to, and they also had their good times, they had their bad times
Yeah,
when they were close to bankruptcy. But ultimately also they had that vision and that spirit, and also a community of, like you said, very engaged users, very very passionate users, admiring their technology, and it was very inspiring.
fantastic. I know I'm asking you to reflect a lot, so I also want to be mindful of your time. What would you say is the best compliment you've ever received professionally? Maybe it's from a customer,
Mm.
like whatever comes to mind. When you think of like, you could share, one compliment professionally. What comes to mind?
Yeah, I think I would say it's a good point. Like professionally, I would say um, I think one of another very interesting partnership was also like being having worked with Apple to be one of the first 360 cameras being at Apple stores worldwide, and also
I didn't
meeting
know that. You guys were
the
in
Apple.
every Apple
Oh
store.
yeah, right. Yeah,
Wow.
so that was super, like actually very early on, like with in 20, I think 2019 we first, or 2018 we got into the Apple store. I need to look that up, but uh yeah, meeting the Apple team and having a first conversation with them was also really inspiring and very rewarding, because they also, like, some of their team also was personal users, and they really like gave us very great advice also, like what to focus on, what to improve, um like from a personal perspective, and then also working with their team of testing engineers. I think both gave us like I think also some sort of reaffirmation, like reassurance that we're on the right track, and but at the same time also seeing that there's still a lot to improve, a lot of details to consider. I think this was really, really, really rewarding for me to get that feedback from such a world-renowned brand, because I think also me and JK or others, we really admire the spirit of companies like, Apple and Sony, They really create something original, even invent new product categories sometimes, and that's something we aspire to be in the long term. So it was great to hear that feedback.
That's fantastic. Wow. It makes
Mm,
that Steve Wozniak encounter
mm,
come full circle. I grew up with, so like, my dad would buy everything Sony growing up. It was, back in the
mm,
80s, early 90s, mid 80s, it was the Samsung of our time, back then.
mm.
I know
Right.
you travel a lot. I know you don't have kids yet, but I do think this is an important
Mm,
question. How do you think about sacrifice? Because I know when you're traveling, it's not easy. You're not in your
mm,
routine,
mm.
like you've got
Sure.
different time zones.
Yes.
It's
Mm.
like tomorrow for you. Like, already we're talking. And so how do you think
Yeah.
about sacrifice as you're building your career?
Mm. That's a good point. Yeah, I think there was definitely sacrifice. One of the hardest sacrifice was, I think, losing contact with a lot of my initial high school friends or friends from university or from early childhood. I think this is something I was actually have a very close relationship with, but being constantly on the road and being also far away from home, I think there's definitely like compromises I had to take, which I now looking back also like uh, uh, not always look positive on it, but I think you have sometimes there's definitely sometimes sacrifices, but at the same time, what kept me motivating was our like was the passion towards photography, imaging, content creation, and at the same time the the feedback and the excitement we got from our users. I talked about this earlier, but still every morning I check what people are doing with our cameras,
Yeah.
what they create with it, and it gives me a lot of motivation to keep going, and ultimately puts me into that state of excitement every day to really have that motivation. It's
It's
not
like
like
fuel. It's like
it's
seeing
not
that as the fuel
right.
that keeps you going, right?
Exactly. That's I think ultimately my advice also, or for others, like keep looking for your passion. If you find that passion, or if you find what you truly aspire for, I think that's ultimately you will get successful with it, because it's something you do where you really would excel, because you will become the best ultimately in that category, because you are working harder, you are more passionate, you have a motivation that others don't have, and keep pursuing your interest, and if you don't know that interest, just try it and do things, and if it doesn't work out, try something new.
I love it. Do you have a few more minutes? I just
Mm.
had a few quick questions. I want to be mindful of your time.
Sure.
Okay. Um, we were talking earlier. Well, so first of all, on this note, let's put a bow on this. I love that, because earlier
Mm,
you said the lesson from your parents is about not just thinking of making money. And now
mm,
you guys have made some money, and hopefully that's been somewhat life changing to you. But you never mentioned that was your motivation, and so I love
mm,
how there's a good, not an ending, but like there's a good milestone for
mm,
you guys, right? Where you
mm,
can breathe
mm,
for a second. Um,
mm,
you mentioned you've been to a lot of countries, at least
mm,
40. What has being immersed in traveling and taking that sort of
mm,
journey that you have taught
mm,
you, about different cultures that you think is important for
mm.
people to know? What's a sort of a life lesson there?
Right. Yeah, I think it's also a very good question, because the traveling and the international experience helps you really to become more open-minded. If you immerse yourself in a completely different culture, getting out of your comfort zone, being forced to adapt, being forced to observe, and being forced to be in a completely different culture, I think is something that helps you as a person to become more open-minded, and also ultimately to step out of your comfort zone, and then being a more like finding yourself in some way. I think this is it's a very rewarding experience to having, or also very great experience to having traveled to so many countries and cultures, and being immersed in these different cultures. Sometimes a lot of cultural shocks as well, but these cultural shocks really help you to get your mind more open, and acknowledge that there's also a lot of other ideas than just what you previously thought of, And I think this can be for a person very inspiring to also find their own passion or find their own motivation. And I really would suggest, like, uh, students or even at younger age or whatever age, just to try to travel and to really force yourself into the local culture, not just stay at the luxury resorts, but also go into the real local community and experience what it is to be there and engage with the locals. I think this is something that is very inspiring.
And you speak four languages, is that right?
Yes, 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 correct.
But you didn't grow up speaking like, is it Chinese or like what language do they speak where you're at?
Yes. So obviously, like what's good about Germany, we have a quite good education system that force you to learn English from a
Okay.
earlier age. So English was good. Also, like in my area, you learn French in high
Okay.
school, and we had frequent high school exchange. So it helped me a lot. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. Couple quick questions. What's one thing you do for yourself when it comes to your mental health?
Mm. For mental health or just like balancing between work, I usually, um, you know, get up around 6 or 6:30, and then I go to the gym, like having just like 30 to 60 minutes of workout. I think this kind of keeps me clear, gives me some sort of state of meditation. Having that routine in the morning can help me to focus and to start a day right. And yeah, because sometimes there's long hours. Like in Insta360, it's definitely we are working hard, I would
Yeah.
say. But it's like it helps you to have that routine in the morning to settle in and to acknowledge what's coming in the day, and having some sort of morning routine really helps me a lot. And that I would also suggest just to try. Maybe not for everyone, but for me it really helps to really get that mental clarity in the morning and daily to keep being focused and being in the moment.
I love it. Same here. If I work out, I eat that. It
Cool.
regulates me, my sleep and everything. So
Mm,
that's great
mm,
advice. What's something you
mm.
know now that you wish you knew at 25?
Wow, that's a good question. Like what I knew at 25, I think again I would probably be even more like, like 25, I didn't really understand like how the world operates and how the international market works. I was more like naive in some way. So I wish at 20, I would even go early. I would go out even earlier to explore the world and to um, to immerse myself in other cultures and experiences. Um, but yeah, I think at 25, um, it was I didn't really understand like the open-mindedness you need, or the motivation you can get by immersing yourself in new situations. And I think that's probably one of the biggest. I think by having made that step around that time helped me to really get on the right track.
That's great. It sounds like earlier the better,
Mm,
which is great. Um,
for sure.
is there one? I know you travel a lot. You got different time zones. Is there one tip or something that works for you to wind down? If so, what would that
Mm.
be?
To wind down, yes. For me,
Yeah,
it's
like
it's it's hard, to be honest.
yeah,
It's hard for me to wind down because I'm constantly immersed, like with user feedback
yeah.
and projects going on. We have like an LA office, we have a Berlin office. It's funny for me. Like in the morning, I'm talking with our LA office. During daytime, I'm talking with our Japan team. Then in the evening, our European team is still awake and keeps messaging me. So it's like constantly nonstop
Yeah. When do you
going
typically go to
on.
bed?
So
Like, is it, do you sleep?
it's around, I would say, like 1 a.m. or so. Like I try to keep it at 1 a.m. and not do later.
Okay.
But there was definitely also times where it was even later. But I want to keep going back to a routine that's really like healthy and enough sleep, because I also figured you need that in order to be really at your best in terms of mental clarity and understanding your priorities and your, you know, like I think it's also a lot about, as the company grows now, the role also shifts to being really having more clarity on what's important. There's so many things we can do. Obviously, we have so many different product lines, so many projects going on. It's important to have that clarity about where you want to head to and what you should prioritize. And especially now, I really had also that mind shift. It's not enough to just stay busy or
Yeah.
stay stressed all the time. You also need time to balance.
Just do you take any like tea or sleep on a chili pad or do anything like that to wind down or to feel tired?
Uh, um, to be honest, not really.
No.
No, I
Okay.
haven't figured out a good way.
Yeah.
But if maybe you have good advice for.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'm a sleep hacker, so
Yeah.
my issue is
That's
falling
cool.
asleep. Yeah, and so if I'm in front of a computer, I get excited when I'm doing this stuff, right? And so like I'm
Mm,
just wired after it. Even editing, I just,
mm,
it's like I love that stuff. And
mm,
so for
mm,
me, if it's after a certain time, I got to the point where I would try like blue light blocking glasses from Andrew Huberman,
mm.
and
Oh
it just
wow,
it just
that's
makes my
awesome.
eyes feel tired. So if it's like past 8
Mm,
o'clock, I'll just put those on
mm,
and like, yeah. So I always look for things to like, how do I feel tired? Because if I
mm,
go to bed
mm,
after 11 now,
mm, mm,
I feel like hungover almost, and I
mm,
don't
mm,
feel good. And so, and I've got like
mm,
sleep tested, wear like aura rings.
mm,
I've tried. I feel like I've kind
mm,
of gone down the rabbit hole to understand my body
mm,
better and like how much
mm,
sleep I need. I don't track it, but like
mm,
I know I need to
mm,
go to bed by a certain time. And usually when I do that, I feel pretty good when I wake up, especially if I work
mm,
out within like the first couple
mm,
hours.
mm.
Um,
Yeah, see, that's something I also like actually trying to learn right now or finding ways. So that's good advice. Yeah.
yeah, the best advice I ever got about sleep is I interviewed somebody who's like a sleep doctor on the podcast, and
Oh
he
wow.
said go get sleep tested. I don't think you have sleep apnea, but if you do, I'll be a second opinion for you. Send me the results. So I go to
Oh,
this
cool.
place, right, and the guy asked me like 20 questions. He's asking me if my leg tingles or something, like all these questions. I'm like, no, no, no. And so he's like, okay, here's the test. You could take it at the lab, or you can just take it home. So I took the sleep test home. It was the worst sleep of my life because you got things taped up and you got to sleep on your back. And
Mm,
so I go to him and he's got the results like a week later. And basically he said to me, he's like, look, he's like, you don't have sleep apnea. He's like, you just
mm.
need to sleep earlier. That was like the advice. And I was like, really? Okay. So if I sleep after 12, I don't feel good. And so I found out like
Mm,
if I sleep by between 10 and 10:30, like get to bed, maybe by 9:30, read a book or something. And it's easier
mm,
said than done. Right. But like,
mm,
it truly helped me feel better. And so I do think like, yeah,
mm.
it is something, especially, if you can't clone yourself, Max, do think, yeah, getting more rest.
Exactly. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. You need more rest.
you do. Okay, last two
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
Is there a book that has made a big
Mm,
impact on you? Fiction, business book, non business, anything? Is there a book that you would
mm.
recommend other people read?
Um, I would say, personally, I really like, like I really admire, it's not really a book, but I really like the management philosophy of Naval Ravikant. I'm sure you know
Oh
him as
yeah,
well. He's like a American entrepreneur investor, and I really, really aspire him a lot in terms of like how he thinks about investing, but also how he thinks about business. And and I recommend to learn more about him and his philosophy. Like you can just check it out on YouTube or following him on X or whatever. But I believe he has very
a
first
lot of wisdom.
principle
Yeah,
thinking. What a very great wisdom, and it helps you to it helped me a lot. Also, like during the journey at Insta360 to get new perspective on things. So that would be my advice. Yeah.
okay, love it.
Mm,
I do
mm,
think people wrote books about him, or I'm not sure if he's published
mm,
them, but yeah, I'll definitely check that out too.
mm, mm,
Okay, last question. You're talking to someone early on in their career, and you give them two or three pieces of life slash career advice. What
mm.
advice would you give them?
Mm. Yeah, I think it's again about finding what you're truly passionate about. Um, if you're truly passionate about one thing, you will ultimately um, find your way. And I think also what is important is to not overthink possibilities. I think it's sometimes just the best to start doing it and learn along the way. And it's completely okay to also have failures or wrong decisions. But it's what taught me also our journey at Insta360 is that you have to keep trying. You have to also sometimes move fast and not think too much about consequences because these learnings along the way can ultimately help you to become a better person or get more professional experiences. And I think this is ultimately the advice I would take. You know, I was also in a similar situation in the early on, like what should I do? Like what should I pursue? But I think sometimes it's just about trying it, doing it, and also failing at it. These are the life's biggest lessons you can get, and willing to take that risk. I think that that would be my ultimate motivation and advice.
I love it, Max. Thanks so much for leaning into this. I really appreciate it.